Have you ever wondered if you're doing things that quietly push people away, things no one dares to tell you about? As we get older, we tend to settle into certain habits. Some are comforting, even wise, but others can become blind spots. You might think you're just being yourself, but the truth is, those around you notice. And while they may not say anything, these habits can quietly affect how you're perceived by family, friends, and even strangers. In this video, we're going to uncover 12 common habits you might develop as you age. Habits everyone notices, but nobody tells you about. And I don't mean bad in a physical sense. I'm talking about behaviors that slowly erode your dignity, isolate you from others, and chip away at the grace and respect you've earned over a lifetime. Each of these points is a chance to reflect, not to judge yourself harshly, but to gently hold up a mirror and ask, is this still serving me, or is it pushing people away? And here's the good news. Most of these habits are entirely correctable. The first step is simply becoming aware of them. By the end of this video, you'll not only know what to watch out for, but also how to carry yourself with more confidence, clarity, and grace in your later years. So stay with me until the end, because you might realize that a few small changes can make a big difference in how others experience your presence and, more importantly, how you see yourself. Let's begin. Number 1, neglecting personal hygiene. One of the first things people quietly notice but rarely mention is when someone stops taking care of their hygiene. And I'm not talking about major neglect. It's the little things. Wearing clothes that look like they've been on for 3 days straight, unbrushed hair, nails that are a bit too long, or a faint odor that lingers a little too long after you've left the room. It might seem small, but it speaks volumes. You see, hygiene isn't just about cleanliness, it's about presentation. When we're younger, we usually maintain these habits without a second thought. But as we age, energy can wane, routines change, and some people start to think, what's the point? This shift is subtle, but those around you notice. They might not say anything directly because they don't want to embarrass you, especially younger family members. They don't know how to bring it up without hurting your feelings. So instead, they just adapt. They might sit a little further away, cut visits short, or stop initiating hugs. But what they're really reacting to isn't you. It's the message your lack of care sends. It tells them you've let things slide a bit, that maybe you don't value yourself as much as you used to. And here's the part no one says out loud. When you stop taking care of yourself, people unconsciously stop treating you with the same degree of warmth and respect. Now, this doesn't mean you need to dress like a model or wear cologne every day. But a fresh shirt, clean hair, and neat nails go a long way. They tell the world, I'm still here. I still care. I still respect myself, and I respect you. The truth is, people react to your energy before they react to your words. And hygiene is one of the clearest reflections of that energy. When you take care of yourself, it quietly invites others to treat you with kindness, closeness, and dignity. And that's a message worth sending. Number 2, speaking without a filter. As we age, a curious thing tends to happen. That little inner voice that once said, maybe you shouldn't say that out loud, gets a bit quieter, sometimes disappearing altogether. You start speaking your mind more freely, perhaps even thinking proudly, I've earned the right to say what I want. And while this can feel liberating for you, the people around you often feel something very different. Discomfort. You see, there's a fine line between honesty and brutal candor. And over time, if you find yourself saying things that make people pause, shift in their seats, or avoid eye contact, it might be a sign that what's coming out isn't just truth. It's harshness. Maybe you've caught yourself commenting on someone's weight, their appearance, their relationship, or even how they're raising their kids. Maybe you've brushed it off with a chuckle saying, I'm just being honest, or in my day we weren't so sensitive. But here's the reality. Honesty without compassion just sounds like criticism. And the people on the receiving end, they rarely tell you. They just start to distance themselves. You'll notice they stop inviting you to certain gatherings, or they don't stay on the phone as long. They love you, but they're trying to protect themselves from the sting of those careless little remarks. Now, this doesn't mean you have to censor every word or walk on eggshells. But it does mean pausing before you speak and asking yourself, is this helpful? Is it kind? Because sometimes what feels like speaking your truth is really just venting frustration, and it lands harder than you realize. A good rule of thumb: if you wouldn't want someone to say it to your grandchild, maybe don't say it to someone else's. The beauty of aging is the wisdom you carry. And when that wisdom is wrapped in kindness, people lean in. They listen. They respect you deeply. But when it's coated in sarcasm or judgment, they start to tune out. Even if your intentions are good, your words still have power, perhaps now more than ever. Use them to connect, not to create distance. If you're still watching and finding these insights valuable, please comment number 2 below to let me know you're here. And if you haven't subscribed yet, I encourage you to subscribe and hit the bell so you don't miss any videos. Your support helps us continue creating great content to inform and inspire you. Number 3, wearing clothes that no longer fit you. There's a certain comfort in routines, eating the same breakfast, taking the same route, wearing the same clothes you've had for years, and there's nothing wrong with consistency. But when it comes to clothing, what once looked classic can, over time, start to look neglected. You might not notice it yourself, but the way your clothes fit, or don't fit, says a lot about your connection to the present moment. Pants that are too baggy, shirts that are too tight, styles that are 20 years out of date, or shoes that have long since lost their shape. These aren't just fashion choices, they quietly send the message that you've stopped paying attention. And while no one will come right out and say it, they notice. This isn't about chasing trends or trying to dress like someone half your age. It's about showing the world that you still see yourself as someone worth taking care of. When people see an older person in clothes that fit well, are neat, and reflect a sense of self-respect, they instantly feel something: admiration. It tells them this person is still showing up for the world, not out of vanity, but out of dignity. Think about it. Would you wear the same suit to a job interview that you wore 25 years ago? Probably not. The same principle applies to everyday life. Our bodies change, our complexions alter, and our energy evolves. Dressing in a way that reflects your current self, not your past self, shows an emotional presence and self-awareness. I've heard some people say, "What do I care what people think? I'm comfortable." And that's fair, but being comfortable and being sloppy aren't the same thing. You can be comfortable and neat. You can be relaxed and respectful of your appearance. Even something as simple as opting for well-fitting jeans or choosing a shirt that complements your natural tones can change how people respond to you. Not because of the fabric, but because of what it represents. That you're still engaged, still aware, still proud of who you are today. People won't compliment you directly. They might not even mention it at all, but they notice. They smile a little more. They treat you with an extra touch of respect because, like it or not, the way we dress is the first thing the world sees. And even at an older age, that first impression still matters. Number 4, interrupting or dominating conversations. We all want to be heard, especially in our later years when we've lived through enough experiences to know a thing or two. But sometimes, in that desire to share what we know or make sure our point is clear, we forget to leave room for others. It can start subtly. You're in a conversation, and someone brings up a topic you've dealt with before. You jump in. You tell a story. You start explaining what they should do. Before you know it, 10 minutes have passed, and no one else has spoken. The tricky thing about this habit is that it doesn't come from a bad place. Most of the time, it's rooted in a genuine desire to help. But here's the problem. When we take up too much conversational space, we unintentionally silence the very people we care about. And they won't tell you you're doing it. Instead, they'll start to pull away. They'll stop calling as often. They'll cut conversations short. You'll feel the distance, but you might not always know where it's coming from. People want to feel seen and heard, not lectured. And when every conversation starts to feel like a monologue, it quietly wears down the relationship, especially with younger adults or grandchildren who might already feel a bit unsure about how to connect with someone from a different generation. This isn't about talking less. It's about listening more, leaving silences, asking more questions than you give answers, and resisting the urge to offer advice unless it's asked for. One of the most powerful things an older person can do in a conversation is to hold back just enough to let others fully express themselves. Not because you don't have anything wise to say, but because they need to know that what they say matters too. And here's the irony. The less you dominate the conversation, the more people seek your opinion. The more you listen, the more they trust you. You become someone they want to talk to, not someone they have to brace themselves for. So, next time you're in a group or even just one-on-one, pay attention. Are you truly listening, or are you just waiting for your turn to speak? That small shift in awareness can change everything. Because when people feel heard, they open up. They draw closer and start looking forward to the next conversation instead of dreading it. Number 5, complaining about kids today. It starts with a simple observation. You see a teenager glued to their phone and think, in my day, we actually talked to each other. You hear someone in their 30s making a decision you don't agree with and think they have no idea how the real world works. And before you know it, these thoughts start slipping out in conversations with friends, family, even strangers. You might not realize it, but when you constantly criticize younger generations, it sends a powerful and often damaging message. It tells the people around you, especially your children and grandchildren, that you're not interested in understanding them, that you're stuck in a bygone era. Now, here's the uncomfortable truth. Every generation thinks the one following it is lacking something. That's not new. But when that criticism becomes your default reaction, it doesn't make you look wise to people. It makes you look bitter. You might mean it as a joke. You might think you're just pointing out the obvious. But to the people hearing it, especially those under 50, it often feels like a rejection, like you're dismissing their entire world, their values, their way of life. And the result? They stop opening up. They keep things light. They avoid deeper conversations because they expect to be judged. Even if they love you, they start to keep a part of themselves at a distance. This doesn't mean you have to agree with everything younger people do. It doesn't mean you have to embrace every new trend or idea. But it does mean choosing curiosity over criticism, asking instead of assuming. When you shift from "these kids today have it easy" to "what's it like trying to find your way in this world?" then you open the door to connection. You create space for dialogue, not division. Remember, your value doesn't come from comparing the past to the present. It comes from your ability to bridge them, to be the steady hand that reaches across generations, not the voice shouting from the sidelines. And believe it or not, when younger people feel respected by you, they listen more. They ask questions. They come to you not because they have to, but because they want to. You become not just the elder in the room, but the one they admire, trust, and turn to, not for lectures, but for wisdom that listens first, then speaks. That's true influence. And it starts by letting go of the need to be right about how things used to be and leaning into who you can still be, right here, right now. If you're still watching and finding these insights valuable, please comment number 5 below to let me know you're here. And if you haven't subscribed yet, I encourage you to subscribe and hit the bell so you don't miss any videos. Your support helps us continue creating great content to inform and inspire you. Let's continue. Number 6, ignoring modern etiquette. There's a kind of social awareness that often goes unnoticed until it's missing. Things like talking loudly on your phone in public, standing too close in a line, or watching a video without headphones in a waiting room. Small behaviors, yes, but they can have a big impact on how others perceive you. These things might not have been a big deal decades ago. Back then, people might have been more tolerant of loud conversations or unexpected behavior. But times change, expectations evolve, and what was once considered harmless now makes people quietly uncomfortable. And here's the tricky part. You might not even realize you're doing it. Nobody pulls you aside to say, "Hey, could you turn that down?" Or, "Would you mind backing up a bit?" Instead, they'll shoot you a look, avoid eye contact, or change seats. It's not personal, but it's real. And whether it's on the subway, in a coffee shop, or even just walking through a store, these little lapses in what people now consider basic courtesy send a message. They say, "I'm not aware of the effect I'm having on others." And the truth is, people don't always give older individuals the benefit of the doubt. They often assume you should know better. So, when they observe these behaviors, they don't chalk it up to a misunderstanding. They chalk it up to disregard. That's not the legacy you want to leave. And thankfully, this is one of the easiest things to correct. Start observing how people around you behave in public spaces, how they manage their volume, how they navigate personal space, how they use technology around others. Modern etiquette isn't about being stuffy, it's about being considerate. It shows you're still tuned into the world, still engaged, still mindful of your impact on others. And that awareness, it commands respect. It tells people, I may be older, but I'm still someone who pays attention, someone who adapts, someone who cares how others feel. This doesn't just improve how strangers react to you, it also changes how your own family sees you. Grandchildren notice, neighbors notice, and their quiet admiration grows. Because in a world that's always rushing, someone who moves with awareness, who behaves with quiet dignity, stands out more than ever. Number 7, over-talking your medical issues. We've all heard the joke. Get a few older folks together, and the conversation turns into a contest of who has the worst knee, the highest blood pressure, or the most medications lined up on the bathroom shelf. And while it might seem like harmless conversation, or even a way to bond, constantly bringing up your health problems can slowly drain the energy of those around you. Here's the thing, everyone knows that aging comes with its share of physical challenges. You don't have to pretend everything is perfect, but when your conversations always circle back to what hurts, what the doctor said, or what the next surgery is, people start to feel like they're in a waiting room, not a relationship. Especially for younger family members, these topics can feel overwhelming. They might not know how to respond or feel helpless hearing about things they can't fix. So, instead of drawing closer, they pull back, not out of disrespect, but out of quiet exhaustion. You deserve empathy. You deserve to be heard. But when it becomes the centerpiece of your relationship with others, it changes the dynamic from connection to caretaking, from conversation to complaint. Think about the people you enjoy being around. Chances are, they're not the ones who list every ache and pill they take. They're the ones who focus on what's still going well. The ones who might mention a challenge, but don't let it define the moment. Does this mean you should hide your struggles? Not at all. But choose your audience, choose your timing, and most importantly, choose balance. Share how you're doing, yes, but also ask others how they're doing. Talk about the book you're reading, the neighbor's garden, the bird you saw out the window, because your life is still full of stories that aren't just medical charts. And people want to connect with you, not just your symptoms. You might be surprised how much lighter your relationships become when you stop letting your health lead every conversation. When you focus on what you can do, what you do enjoy, and what still brings a smile, not only do you feel better, but you help others feel better too. And in a world that already feels heavy, being someone who lightens the mood even a little is a beautiful kind of medicine in itself. Number 8, stubbornly holding on to outdated beliefs. One of the hardest things to notice in ourselves, especially as we age, is when our beliefs start to turn into walls instead of windows. We hold on to ideas that served us well in the past, principles that shaped how we raised our families, ran our businesses, and made sense of the world. But over time, if we're not careful, these beliefs can harden into absolutes that no longer reflect the world we live in now. You might find yourself saying things like, "That's just the way it is, period," or "People are too sensitive these days," or "No matter what science says, I know what's right." And while you may feel confident in your opinions, what others often hear is something very different. Resistance. The truth is, the world has changed and continues to change. Technology, culture, gender roles, mental health awareness, the way we communicate, it's all evolving rapidly. And when we dig in our heels and refuse to even consider another perspective, it doesn't come across as wisdom. It comes across as unwillingness. Younger generations notice this. And again, they usually won't confront you directly. But internally, they're quietly labeling you as someone they can't talk to about certain things, someone who won't understand, someone who doesn't want to understand. And that's a real loss, because whether it's your grandchild questioning traditional career paths or your neighbor living a lifestyle you don't fully grasp, there's so much connection possible when curiosity replaces judgment. Staying open doesn't mean abandoning your values. It means being willing to update your understanding without compromising who you are. It means making room at the table for new ideas, even if you don't agree with all of them. And here's something else. Stubbornness often hides fear. Fear of losing relevance. Fear of being left behind. Fear that if we let go of old beliefs, we lose a part of ourselves. But the truth is, your relevance doesn't come from how tightly you cling to the past. It comes from how bravely you engage with the present. When you're able to say, "I never thought of it that way," or "Tell me more about what that means to you," you open doors, and people walk through them. They feel safe. And the beautiful part is, sometimes you change. Sometimes that younger person you're listening to turns out to be right in a way you hadn't imagined. And that humility, that willingness, that's what makes people truly admire you. Not because you had all the answers, but because you remained a student of life, even in old age. That's rare, and it's powerful. If you're still watching and finding these insights valuable, please comment number 8 below to let me know you're here. And if you haven't subscribed yet, I encourage you to subscribe and hit the bell so you don't miss any videos. Your support helps us continue creating great content to inform and inspire you. Let's continue. Number 9, walking or moving without spatial awareness. As we get older, our pace changes. We slow down a bit. We might feel less steady or more cautious in our steps, and that's completely natural. But what often happens without us realizing it is that we become less aware of how our movements affect the people around us. You've probably seen it. Someone standing in the middle of a supermarket aisle, cart sideways, completely blocking the way while they examine a label. Or someone stopping abruptly in a busy walkway lost in thought, or walking with a friend and slowly drifting into the path of oncoming pedestrians. Most of the time, these things happen without ill intent. You're not trying to be inconsiderate. You're simply focused on your own task. But to the people around you, especially those in a hurry or navigating tight spaces, it feels like friction, like you're creating little obstacles that make their day a bit harder. And here's the key. People rarely say anything. They just sigh, maneuver around you, maybe shoot you a quick glance, and go on their way. But over time, these small moments add up in how others perceive you. They might start to see you as that person who's always in the way. Or they might silently decide to avoid situations where they'd have to walk beside you, shop with you, or navigate public spaces together. Not because they don't like you, but because it feels like they have to manage you. I want to be clear, slowing down isn't the issue. Awareness is. You can move slowly and still be spatially considerate. You can pause to read something and still step to the side. You can walk carefully and still be mindful of the flow around you. This is especially important in places like airports, crowded sidewalks, shopping malls, or even church aisles. These are shared spaces, and being considerate in them sends a powerful message. You're still paying attention. You still care about your impact on others. In fact, this kind of awareness is a subtle form of grace. It tells people you're not just self-absorbed, you're present, thoughtful, and kind. And the truth is, most people don't expect perfection. They just hope for a little effort, a bit of awareness, some consideration. When you show that, you stand out, not as a slower person, but as a considerate one, someone who still moves through the world with dignity and a quiet sense of responsibility. And that kind of presence is more powerful than you might realize. Number 10, telling jokes that age poorly. A good sense of humor is one of the best things you can carry with you into old age. It keeps you light, puts others at ease, and helps smooth over even the toughest moments. But not all humor ages gracefully, and some jokes, especially ones that got laughs decades ago, can quietly push people away today. You might be joking around the way you always have. A bit of sarcasm here, a teasing remark there, maybe a comment that plays on old stereotypes or pokes fun at someone's background, appearance, or choices. You might even laugh as you say it and follow up with, "I'm just kidding with you," or "Come on, lighten up." But here's what's changed: the world around you. And while humor once relied on poking fun at differences, today people are much more sensitive to how words land, especially when they come from someone older. Younger people, in particular, are navigating a culture that emphasizes inclusion, empathy, and respect for diverse experiences. When a joke feels out of step with these values, it doesn't come across as funny. It comes across as out of touch, or worse, disrespectful. And they probably won't tell you. They'll laugh politely, then avoid getting too close. You'll feel the distance but might not understand where it's coming from. This doesn't mean you have to walk on eggshells. It doesn't mean humor is off limits. But it does mean thinking twice before defaulting to certain kinds of jokes. Ask yourself, is this funny because it's clever or because it's putting someone else down? The best kind of humor, especially in older age, is humor that lifts people up, that brings lightness, not discomfort, that shows you're not stuck in the past, but evolving with everyone else. In fact, nothing connects faster than being able to laugh at yourself. It shows humility. It shows perspective. It shows you're not trying to prove anything. You're just there to enjoy the moment with others. And when people see that, they relax. They engage. They start to see you not just as the older person in the room, but as someone who still gets it. A kind sense of humor will take you far, but a thoughtful, self-aware, and slightly updated for today humor that will keep the door to connection wide open at any age. Number 11, playing helpless when you're not. Aging brings real challenges. No one denies that. There are things that used to be easy that now take more time, more care, sometimes more help. But there's a difference between needing help and defaulting to it when you don't. And over time, that difference becomes something people notice more than they'll ever admit. Maybe you've gotten into the habit of saying, "Can you just do that for me?" Or, "I don't know how all this stuff works. I'll just mess it up anyway." At first, these requests seem innocent, but when they become habits, especially for things you're still capable of doing, they can quietly start to weigh on the people around you. Family members might start to feel like caregivers, even when you're perfectly able. Friends might notice they're always the ones lifting, reaching, fixing, organizing. And while they might smile and say, "No problem," inwardly, they're starting to feel something else, resentment. What's even more complex is that sometimes this behavior is unconscious. It's not laziness, it's fear. Fear of doing it wrong. Fear of looking foolish. Fear of not keeping up. So you let someone else step in. And with every little surrender, your independence shrinks a bit more. But here's the truth. People admire effort more than perfection. They'd rather see you try and struggle a bit than give up completely. Your children, your grandchildren, even your neighbors, they feel proud when you show you're still in the game, still willing to learn, to move, to participate. And when you ask for help only when you genuinely need it, they trust you more. They don't feel manipulated or taken advantage of. They feel honored to step in because they know it's coming from a place of honesty, not habit. Maintaining your sense of agency isn't about pretending you're 30 again. It's about showing up with what you can do, asking clearly for what you can't, and respecting the line between the two. You'd be amazed how empowered you feel when you start reclaiming the little things, carrying your own bag, figuring out the new remote, following a recipe without asking someone to look over your shoulder. These small victories build confidence. They remind you and everyone around you that age might change what you're capable of, but it doesn't take away your strength, your will, or your dignity. Because the people who truly age well aren't the ones who never ask for help. They're the ones who know when to ask and when to stand tall and say, "I've got this." Number 12, always needing to be right. We all like to feel we've earned our seat at the table, especially after decades of life experiences, tough choices, and hard-won lessons. So it's understandable that at a certain point, many older individuals feel like they have the answers, that they've seen enough to know how things work. And in many cases, that's true. But here's where it gets tricky. When the need to be right overshadows the need to connect, people stop listening. It can show up in small ways. Correcting someone's story at the dinner table, insisting your way of doing something is the only way that makes sense, rolling your eyes at new ideas, or dismissing someone else's opinion with a, "Trust me, I know better." At first, others might shrug it off. They might even laugh. But over time, being around someone who always has to be right becomes exhausting. People start to avoid substantive conversations. They hold back their thoughts. They stop disagreeing with you, not because you've convinced them, but because it's just easier to stay quiet. The irony is, many older folks don't do this to be arrogant. They do it to feel secure, to feel they still have authority in a world that's rapidly changing around them. But when being right becomes more important than being kind or curious, it backfires. Being wise doesn't mean having all the answers. It means knowing when to offer your perspective and when to let someone else explore theirs. It means holding your opinions with confidence, but also with openness. Because here's the truth most people won't say out loud. The people we admire most aren't the ones who correct us. They're the ones who listen, reflect, and gently invite us to think differently without forcing it. When you stop trying to win every argument, people actually start coming to you more. They ask for your opinion. They value your input, not because you're dominating the room, but because your words carry a quiet, thoughtful weight. And when you do speak, because you're not just speaking to win, your voice carries further. It sticks. It matters. In the end, the need to be right fades. What lasts is how you made people feel. And when you leave room for others to be heard, challenged, and uplifted, your presence becomes something they truly cherish, not just tolerate. Final thoughts. Now that we've gone through these 12 behaviors, take a moment to reflect, gently, without judgment. Which of these habits have quietly crept into your daily life? Which ones surprised you? And which ones do you feel ready to shift, even just a little? This video wasn't meant to shame or criticize. It was created to give you something most people don't, an honest look with kindness. Because the truth is, these behaviors don't make you a bad person. They're simply blind spots, things that settle in over time without us noticing. And once we notice them, that's where the real strength comes in. Not in pretending they don't exist, but in saying, I see that. I can do better. I still have the power to grow. That's what aging well is really about. Not clinging to the past. Not resisting change, but approaching each new day with self-awareness, grace, and the quiet strength of someone who still wants to connect, to evolve, and to be a source of warmth in the lives of others. So, as you move forward, keep these signs in mind, not as a checklist, but as gentle reminders, ways to keep showing up in the world with dignity, presence, and the kind of character that leaves others feeling respected, comfortable, and inspired. And remember, it's never too late to change how you move through the world. Small shifts in how you speak, listen, dress, joke, or interact can completely transform how people experience your presence and how you experience your own place in the world. Thank you for joining us today. We'd love to hear from you. Leave a comment below and share one thing you learned today and how you plan to use it in your life. Your insights matter to us, so please don't hesitate to share. Reading your comments motivates and encourages us greatly. If you enjoyed this video and found it helpful, please like, subscribe, and share. Your support helps us continue creating great content to inform and inspire you. Thanks for watching, and we look forward to seeing you in the next one.